A nice device. Is that one free?
Will you? Yeah. And I'm all the way in, but then I can't see it. Yes.
Are you comfortable there, or would you like?
I'm just so grateful. It's all okay.
We are recording it and streaming on YouTube.
Streaming. just
I can
sorry,
give you.
Ross.
I can give you the link. I was saying, are you comfortable there, or would you like to, just because we are still this side? Hari Om. Hari Om. Good afternoon. My name is Ashoka Tilakasuta. I am part of the Vedic Foundation, New Zealand. Today I'm here with my daughters, Anavi Tilakasuta and Gaia. So I have two valid helpers today. Today we are about to talk, we will have a class about Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. I understand you are in a yoga teacher training process, and which happens every fortnightly, correct? And you've been through how many weekends already? 3? The third, correct. And also you've had a class with Rakshakari Tilakasuta about Raja Yoga before. Excellent. And you also had classes with the Satyananda tradition. So, perfect. I would like to ask you, starting the class, if you'd like to recite 3 Oms put together. So we open the class. And after that, I will recite with Vanavi the mantras of salutation to the Gurus. So what we have there is actually a picture of our Gurus. We have on the right hand side our current Guru, on the center is his Guru, and on the left hand side 3 generations up. The names are Baba Bhajaranga on the left hand side, Swami Tilak at the center, and Swami Shankara Tilaka on the right hand side. And our tradition is a tradition of Jnani Yoga, so the yoga of knowledge. And also we are close to the Shivananda tradition, which is common with the Satyananda family. Exhale. Inhale. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvaivatitam Gaganasadisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamashalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavati Tam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Kandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tapadam Dashikam Yena Tasmai Shri Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjanan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Janamulam Gurur Murti Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Mokshamulam Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidanandamurtaye Nistrapanchaya Shankaya Niranamaya Tejase Sri Sadgurudeva Namaha Sri Balaram Shri Swami Sati Sri Shankara Tilaka Swami Sati Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Before starting every class, we do thank our gurus and we offer frustrations to them, because ultimately what we are is but channels for this knowledge that is passed on generation after generation to move freely in the world. So we do consider ourselves just channels for the amazing work that these beautiful souls do. As I was saying, today we will talk about Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. First of all, I would like to spend a couple of words about what they are. So Bhakti and Karma are two Sanskrit terms. Bhakti means devotion and Karma means action. So we are talking today about the yoga of devotion and the yoga of action. I will do that with the help of a sacred text which is called Bhagavad Gita. Are you familiar with it? Bhagavad Gita? Yes. So you would know, as you see in the slide, we do have a picture of a chariot, which would be Arjuna's chariot, which has 4 horses. And those 4 horses are symbols for the 4 branches of yoga, 4 main branches. Raja Yoga, you already have had a class with Rakshara about that. Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, which we will talk about today. And Jnana Yoga, which is the yoga of knowledge. Okay? I remind you that Raja Yoga is the yoga of the mastery of the mind. So, what is Bhagavad Gita? Let's have a short overview about this beautiful text. Bhagavad Gita is part of the Vedas. Veda means knowledge in Sanskrit. So, everything with the root Ved, Veda, Vidya, everything with that root has to do with knowledge. Vidya means knowledge as well. In particular, the Bhagavad Gita is an Upanishad. Upanishad is a class of texts, which is they are dialogues between a master and a disciple. Okay? So they are regarded as very elevated teachings. They do belong to a class of teaching which have to do with Vedanta, Vedanta is the final part of yoga. It's the final teaching of yoga, it's the highest. Our particular tradition is called Advaita Vedanta, meaning that it's non-dual. We don't see a distance between ourselves and the divinity. Divinity is everything, everything is divine, and we are but an illusion of separation in this moment. So the Bhagavad Gita in itself is a very compact book. You can see it's quite compact. It's 700 verses, not much, divided in 18 dialogues or yayas. Each one of these dialogues is dedicated to a particular kind of yoga. And itself, the Bhagavad Gita is regarded as a manual of self-realization. We consider in the Vedic tradition that there are several levels of understanding of Bhagavad Gita. And depending on where we are in a moment in life, we can go back to Bhagavad Gita and find comfort, find knowledge, find guidance in the text. So I really suggest, if you haven't read it, or if you never had the opportunity, I think it's a great idea to have a look at it. It's a great resource for a person on a spiritual path. It's great to read. It's very concise and very direct in its teachings. What happens in the Bhagavad Gita? The Bhagavad Gita is about a special moment in an epic, in the Indian mythology, whereby a war is about to start, a battle. A war is already in progress, but there is a battle between two sides, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Actually, they happen to be relatives. They used to be cousins, and they have known people on both sides, so they would know each other very well. They happen to be at some stage, because of previous issues with one party which wanted to keep all the power and say overrule some rules of righteous behavior, which we call adharma. In the middle of this battle, right before starting the fight, Arjuna, who was the chief of one of the two parties, with his chariot, led by Krishna. Krishna was his friend in the epic. So at that stage, Arjuna is the leader of a party of the two armies, and Krishna is driving his chariot. Arjuna asks Krishna to put the chariot in the middle of the battlefield. Nothing has happened yet. And in that moment, he looks at the opposite, at the opponents, and he's got a crisis. In that moment, he doesn't want to fight. So it's a special moment where he doubts, right? It may happen to us many times in life that we find doubt in ourselves. We don't know actually what to do and what's the right thing. In that moment, he's lucky enough, possibly a good karma, to have a guy within Krishna. So he asks in that moment that his friend for help. The Bhagavad Gita is about the dialogue between Arjuna in a crisis and Krishna advising him. And in that particular moment, which is, you can imagine, before the noise, everything has started, it was a moment of stillness, right? Before the battle, in which the master actually basically gives the disciple an essay, possibly regarded as the essence of yoga and self-realization. It's very deep and it's very interesting. Today we will focus on two dialogues, particularly, which is Dhyaya 12, which is exactly the yoga of devotion, and Dhyaya 3, which is the yoga of action. I will use now and then verses from the Bhagavad Gita, which may be relevant to what we will talk about. My intention would be to go through the slides first, and then we would have time for questions. Since you just had lunch, let's see how we go with the rhythm. I may change a bit or make it more interactive if I see that we are kind of going down the attention. And feel free to change position as convenient. You know, that helps you also keep awake. Right, ready to start? We will talk first about the yoga of devotion, the dialogue 12, the ayah 12. Right at the beginning of the dialogue, Arjuna asks Krishna, after a few dialogues already, but he makes a fundamental question, which is, can you please tell me who are the best yogis? So amongst all these people on a spiritual path, choosing different ways, where is the excellence? Who are the best? In that moment, Krishna answers, with what you see over there. So I'll read you in Sanskrit first. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Vesha Manoye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Tame Yukta Tamamataha. The blessed Lord said, those who fix their minds on me, fully devoted to me in continuous meditation and steadfast faith, I consider them to be the best yogis. Read like that, I would like actually to go a little bit deeper in what this sloka says. There are a few elements, key elements. One is about fixing the mind on something. The next one is the devotion, so be fully devoted to an ideal in continuous meditation and in absolute faith. There are 4 items there to be the perfect yogi. So what I would like to do today is a little bit link this to our daily life and have a look at how that applies from a text which is thousands of years ago old to our daily life. I would like to start with the practical issues, which is fixing the mind, right? So if we have a bit of a look at our life, we would definitely see a pattern of the oscillation or between moments of ups and downs, moments of in which we are, I would say, a bit down, moments of up or happiness and more joy, and moments where we are a bit down continuously in this flow, right? There is an analogy that we use a lot in yoga. There is a perception that actually in our life, we do have, it's almost like if we are immersed in the sea, we are underwater. And those moments when actually we have sparks of happiness or joy is when actually we get out and breathe actually. So we would feel ourselves with that feeling, and then we would go down into what? Into normally a state of, I wouldn't say sleep, but unconsciousness or routine, lack of mindfulness, okay? To different degree, all of us, we can observe moments in which we are more aware, more fully living, and moments in which we are taken by the routine, taken by everything that is our conditionment around us, not fully present. That condition naturally takes us into, we may be more aware or less aware of it, of pain or sorrow. So pain is a matter of physical pain. But sorrow is a mental perception of lack of something. Is a condition of dissatisfaction, condition of feeling the same thing that makes us desire something, right? It's quite an atavic perception, but we do crave, we do desire, and in that condition, you can imagine the same feeling of being underwater and craving for air, right? So that is the analogy of a person being underwater, feeling the suffering of the human condition, and taking an effort to be able to breathe, to be free, to live fully. That is the analogy that I would carry on for a while in this class. But does it make sense to you? That feeling of being underwater when you need air? That is also the strong motivation in life that makes us attend a class like this, for example, looking for something different, something that we want to know that may possibly change a condition, makes us embarking on endeavors, any sorts of projects, family, love, affection, everything. Have a baby. It's all of these is perpetuated continuously in our life. What we're going to talk about is a bit of awareness about how that works and how can we get a bit more in control, and if there is possibly a positive trend we can put in our lives through these kinds of yoga. What do I say kinds of yoga? These are rational, let's say, semantic attributions that we give to yoga. We regard yoga as one and only path. But in this particular path, we can have several facets or sides or particular practices. Thank you. Any action we take on the path of self-realization, we regard it as yoga. And in order to communicate it each other, we give it a name, Bhakti yoga, and would be mainly focused on the aspect of devotion, but it's all part of one only yoga, which is an integral yoga, Sattva yoga. It's just one path. All right, so first observation, the condition of immanent. So everything which lasts for a short period of time generates suffering. Experience short happiness, change of condition generates suffering in us. Every change naturally brings us some sort of suffering. Just because we need to adapt or adjust to a different situation, something we don't know, generates, at the minimum, anxiety or a little bit of stress. Excitement would say yes, maybe, but also there is a portion of stress, and in the adjustment, naturally, in the human mind, we do live change with a component of suffering. The idea about having those spikes so short in time, we do hold the memory of it, and we long for those moments again and again and again. Okay. So how about looking for something that is permanent in time? So yoga, as part of the practice, tends to generate a mind. The yogic mind is a mind that longs for a state which is permanent in time and is constant, and we can actually go to in any moment. The state of enlightenment is seen as a permanent condition that is able to be held and carried with us continuously, possibly beyond the physical body. So, temporary versus permanent, there is a big difference, right? So moving from this immanent conditions, short period of time in which we breathe, and then moments of suffering and longing again for those sorts of moments, to a stable condition of mindfulness and presence. The other concept that we have in yoga is the concept of avidya, which is ignorance. I'm introducing Sanskrit words to you that you will use throughout your course. So avidya, vidya means knowledge, avidya is ignorance, right? Ignorance itself is seen, you can visualize it as a veil or a curtain which prevents us from seeing the truth. And that in itself prevents us from being actually happy or knowing what is our real purpose in life and how to navigate through life. So the purpose of yoga, together with different practices that we may actually endeavor, is to remove avidya, to remove that veil or that curtain so that we can have that permanent state of perception of the truth. The last point that I want to talk to you about is fixing the mind. It is quite important, you know, if you think, you can think about being in love, right? Being in love is something with somebody, it may be, you would experience this perception of wanting, having that thought continuously in our mind. You would have experienced that, thinking continuously about a person or about a situation, about something that absorbs your mind completely. And that is linked to a desire, possibly, with a longing for something, spending time with somebody. I'm making an analogy here because rationally, we can analyze our life and establish priorities and establish what is really worth spending our energies for. So fixing our mind, and Krishna says in this sloka, if we go back a second, says, fix their mind on me. We should see Krishna as actually the divine principle or avatar of Vishnu. The concept here is that we would analyze in our life how important it is for us to establish that connection with the divine. And in order to get that connection, we need, even rationally, to establish how important that is for us. I don't know whether it's, I can convey this concept to you. In your meditation, for example, have you been meditating? Yeah. When you start a meditation, there is a process of fixing your mind on something, usually. Do you do that? Fixing your mind on something is an exercise, right? It's an exercise of concentration. And then there is the next layer. After concentration, we do have we add to it the emotional longing, the motivation, the desire to reach, to be that object of meditation, right? Which is it's the engine of our transformation. So if you do your meditation and you think about, you may think about a diamond. You may think about light, a point of light. Those are exercises of concentration. You are concentrating about something and you're exercising your mind in staying still on a point. Devotion adds one more layer to it, which is wanting to become the object of your meditation. So how about you have an ideal, you have a perception of something that is so important to you that you want to become, and you put all yourself into becoming that. The concept of the yoga of devotion is about having an ideal. Maybe you would have seen Hare Krishna, for example. Hare Krishna would focus on the ideal of Krishna as a devata, as a god, what qualities the god has got, all the knowledge that it brings, the health actually, the wealth, all the powers that Krishna has as such. And the devotees, in their meditation, in their singing, they look at becoming, anytime they sing, they look at becoming more and more Krishna. They have a little bit of a big blue spot on their skin, and slowly they get closer and closer and closer to becoming the object of their ideal, the object of their meditation. Is it so?
Is it devotional meditation?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the process of yoga of devotion. We spoke about fixing the mind on something, which is establishing what is our idea. Fixing the mind on something, we establish rationally what is our ideal. And then we get to the other two layers, which is the continuous meditation and the steadfast faith. The other two elements of this talk I was bringing to you. We establish what we want to become. We put all our minds, our energy, our concentration, we do integrate with that perception, and that very process of integrating ourselves with our ideal starts operating the transformation. It is a building up our mind into a particular way where our behavior, our thoughts, our energy, everything starts aligning with what is our ideal. So this is the process. It's a gradual process.
So with Bhakti yoga, do you choose, because there's so many different stages to worship or to idealize, so do you choose one and work through them, or how do you, so all the different archetypes and the energies that they bring, you work through each of them at a different stage?
There are aspects of the whole divine, one and only. And actually, thank you very much for the question, because we get to the next point, which is how a guru would help in the process. You see that in our life, we do receive a lot of advices. It's quite, we talk to people, we express ourselves, and we receive ideas on the other side, on the other end. We read books, and we are sort of, today, more than a few years ago, we are sort of bombarded by content. And that tells us about good diets, that tells us about good exercises, these new fashionable thing to do that would make us feel better and beautiful. And exactly. So ideally, in all these, what we do is actually we do what we, at any point in time, we do what we feel best for us, right? With what is our, I would say, mind state, what is our understanding, level of understanding in that particular moment. The principle of guru is, I wouldn't call it a technique or a strategy, but actually is a very basic principle which has been proved in thousands of years in its effectiveness by having, first of all, a person who has gone through the path already and has reached a particular, has realized some truths that he can pass on. Second point is an external person. So it's not ourselves. We tend to be quite, I would say, easy on ourselves, so that it's not very convenient at times, or we feel that it's not nice to take the bitter medicine, right? So there is a special value in having somebody we trust who cares unconditionally, which is an important component of it, and advises us for the best with a range of view that goes, we recognize the value, the fact that the guru has a much farther or larger range of view than we have. So that we can decide what is best for us for the next days, weeks. But how about somebody who's able, possibly has got a much better understanding so that he can advise us for the best in the long term. The very Bhagavad Gita introduces a concept which is called positively better. Arjuna at some stage asks Krishna, what is positively better for me? Which is more than better, than just better. So what is good for me today is, I don't know, maybe going to the gym. But positively better is what is ultimately good for me in the long term, which may be sit down and meditate, for example. Or maybe meditate on that particular God or aspect of the energy rather than the other one, depending on the inclination of the person.
I see that.
Yes. The guru has got the ability to look at our tendencies, look our, and we will talk about that, our karmas, weak points, strengths, and is a bit of a coach. You're going to call it a coach with an added value. Guru means light in the dark. So when we are in that avidya, lack of light around us, we don't see where we are going or what's the good path, is when we need Guru, the light in the dark. Okay. There are different kinds of guru. If you observe around you, masters, you can refer to masters in general. Guru is a particular word in Sanskrit, but usually you would have masters who talk to multitudes of people. You have masters who relate to a smaller crowd one way, say, do that to 500 people, and then it's their responsibility whether they do it or not. And there is another class of masters who actually restricts the group they teach to, and they work one-on-one. But when they give an advice, they expect the other party actually to collaborate, to have a mutual growth, right? It's the master growth grows with the disciple in a sense, right? Because it grows in Shakti. What I gave to you as a hint there is, today we are, I talk to many people looking for a master, looking for a guide, and jumping from one tradition to another, skipping, like what we call, it's a little bit like a bee behavior, going from one flower to another. In yoga, we used to say that if you're looking for a master, you should find a student first. So you have to be willing to be yourself a student first, commit yourself to change and to take the bitter medicine in the first place, if you would like really to go on the path. It is as I was saying, if you can relate to that feeling of being underwater and wanting to breathe and to have access to that air, that is mumukshutvam, is the strong craving, strong desire, which is absolute. And that establishes your priorities. That is so important in that moment that you just want air. And that desire is what Krishna is talking about. Fix your mind on me, I can help you out. Meditate, which is focus on the point, willing to become me. Take your divine path out. And the last component is with absolute faith. Why? Because we don't see results in minute one of our practice. We do observe our changes in time, but there must be a component of faith that ultimately the medicine will work. How do we do that? How do we build that faith? We always have discussion. We like to talk with Rakshakri about it. We had a Catholic upbringing, and the Catholic religion has got a lot of blind faith, blind faith concept, right? And she used to say when she was a kid that she was always told sort of about faith, have faith. How do I know if I have it? If I don't have it, am I out of the game? So what happens? It's a problem. You feel like if you don't have that faith, you almost are doomed. So the concept of faith itself has got some aids, let's say. Of course, the path generates change in us, and yoga says that nothing has got real value if we cannot live and integrate in our life, or hasn't got any real value in our daily life. Therefore, we would be able to validate at each point in time whether we are going in that direction. We would observe changes in ourselves. We would observe changing in our energy, our mind, our reactions, our emotions, how we deal with emotions. And in any moment, a guru, an accessible guru, leaves the opportunity to ask questions, which is the very essence of the Upanishad, as we were saying. There is no teaching if there is no question. How can there be an answer without a question? And if it is unconditional, maybe definitely the guru has got an unconditional attitude, but the initial movement comes from the disciple, comes from the learner, from showing interest, wanting to know more, showing that I want to breathe. Now, please give me, I would like to know more about this. And that measure of interest, of wanting to absorb that knowledge is the motivation, creates the motivation on the other side to provide the medicine. Maybe bitter, not. We are talking about knowledge, we're talking about indications about a particular practice, we're talking about advices, about health, about all the spheres of life. Everything. So it doesn't end up with spirituality. It has to do a lot with our habits, daily habits. We're talking about, we are getting here into a sphere. You would have recognized that there is the yoga we can do in a gym, and there is the yoga which can get to a much deeper level. So the yoga we do in a gym is a preparation for all the rest. Preparation for meditation. Getting the body ready. Ultimate yoga is actually the meditation and what comes after it. What do we do with that? Looking for that permanent state. Looking for some deeper understanding, inquiry. So, is it This is a text, very old text, 2,000 years possibly, but I would say it would never be out of fashion or not actual until we are humans and we are in a human condition. It has its relevance. I would like to ask about Manaviji. Would you like to, because I wanted actually in this Dhyaya 12, after the first 12 verses, which are very short, there is a bit of a description of how the devotee, the devoted yogi looks like. You want to hear about that a little bit? So also she is studying Sanskrit, so I think there's an opportunity for her to read a little bit of Sanskrit. It's not more than 3 minutes of Sanskrit and 3 minutes of English. Would you like to? Oh, yes. So, can you read? This. Here.
Advishta sarvabhutam nigraha karunaiva cha nirmano niraham karaha samadhukha sukha kshami. The translation.
You can read all Sanskrit, then you can read.
Samtushta satam yogi Yatamadhrirdhanischayah Mayakpita manobundhir Yo madbhakta samepriyah Yasmanno dvitaye loko Lokanno dvitaye chayah Harsamar Dvegair Mukto Yasap Chamepriyaha Anapeksha Suchirdaksha Udasino Gata Vyataha Sarvarambhaya Partiyagi Yomad Bhakta Samepriyaha Yona Hrisyati na dvesti na sochati na kansati kanchati subha shubha parityagi bhakti mamya samepriyaha samahasat Shatro Chanitre Cha Tathamana Pamanayo Shitoshna Sukhadhe Shitoshna
Sukhadekshu Samasanga Vivarita Tulyaninda Satastutir Mohu Samtustuke
Kenachi Aniketa Sthiraman Matir Bhakti Man Me Priyo Naraha Yetu Dharmya Vritam Nidam Yathoktam Paryupasate Shraddha Dhana Matparama Bhaktas Tetiva Me Priyaha.
Very good. Oh, very good. So she's been studying, she's been spending time in India, and she had the opportunity to study some, she's studying in a proper school over there and spending time in ashram with a very good friend, She's got a tutor. It's very fun. So, the idea of the yogi, it's he who hates no being, doesn't hate, who is friendly and compassionate to all, who is free from feeling of I and mine, even-minded in pain and pleasure and forbearing. Ever content, stayed in meditation, self-controlled, possessed firm conviction, with mind and intellect fixed, such a devotee is definitely dear. He by whom the world is not afflicted, and whom the world cannot afflict. He who is free from joy, anger, fear, and anxiety is dear to Krishna. He who has no wants, is pure and prompt, unconcerned, untroubled, who is selfless in all his undertakings. He who is thus devoted to me is dear to Krishna. He who neither rejoices nor hates, nor grieves, nor desires, renouncing good and evil, treating both as the same, full of devotion, is the devoted yogi. He who is the same to foe and friend, and also in honor and dishonor, who is the same in cold and heat, in pleasure and pain, who is free from attachment. To whom blame and praise are equal, who is silent, content with anything, free of selfish attachment, steady-minded, and full of devotion. Such a one is dear to the Master. Those who follow this immortal Dharma described above with devotion and faith, looking upon me as the supreme goal, the ideal, they are exceedingly dear to me. The idea of this devoted yogi is a person who doesn't have attachment, doesn't fear, is content with everything. There's a concept of santosha in Sanskrit, which is being content, being it's not plain and we shouldn't take that as a being plain and boring, but is free from that depending, that suffering coming from change, is free from all those affections, those pull and push of the external world on him, so that he's balanced and content in a stable, steady way. Okay. The ideal is, we can possibly grasp a bit of that conception. Even meditating on that state as such is something that is powerful in itself. On aspects of it, santosha, satisfaction, the simple joys of the little things. Or, you see, that's an example of a person that itself, that kind of yogi, is an ideal for the bhakti, the bhakta, how to, to behave and how to lead life. Questions?
So many questions.
Yes.
I mean, this concept, I think, is the thing that I struggle with most, because there's this sense that, to me, this implies, and therefore, there's nothing that we should do in the face of injustice. It's I recognize that it's probably much deeper than that, but to me, it seems like there must be some concept of, if we see ourselves as divine, and we see ourselves as not separate from the divine, and if we see everyone else as also being manifestations of the divine, how can we live when we see injustice?
This doesn't say that the yogi doesn't act and actually takes us to the next.
That's why I know there's something
karma yoga, which is
no reaction.
It is absolutely perfect. There is I would suggest, there is a dialogue 16, which is the dialogue discrimination of divine nature and evil nature. Okay? There, in that dialogue, there is a clear discrimination. Say, these are the qualities of person with the divine nature. These are the qualities of the yogi or the individual with evil or diabolic nature.
Well, it's funny because it's like on one hand you're saying like there's no good and there's no bad and then there's no, you know, like all these
Correct.
dualities. Like the ideal yogi sits in between all of those, contented, and yet there's still these teachings about good versus evil.
No, correct. Think about the very Bhagavad Gita. A battle is about to happen, and we can see any moment that actually is a little battle at different levels. We do fight continuously. Thing is, how does that affect us? So we fight with a purpose and an ideal, right? Which is righteous. To the most of our abilities, we support non-violence, but we do have the right fights. We do fight with unperturbed mind. You can, there is this image of, you can imagine, you can think a warrior with a sword. That sword is never, ever taken out, shown, until the moment it is an inevitable and doesn't forgive. It is something, so you can imagine that it is an exercise of balance towards the other world, whereby without any, I wouldn't say dispassionate feeling, but it's simply in the right moment when it is the Dharma or the situation leads to it. And it's a second. Very decisive in the action, and ultimately not inflicting no perception of violence. You would have seen movies, you would have seen that perception of unavoidable impact on another life. If you think about this takes me really to the Karma Yoga, because think about every moment in life, it is, you know, the perception of the concept of non-violence, but every moment in life has got a component of violence. We do breathe, and there's millions of germs in any moment that actually die. In the very moment we take air in. And it's a continuous process, so we cannot deny that. The thing is that we take our place in the world and in the chain of life, the right place, so that actually we are acting is righteous, is perfect in our Dharma, is our inner nature and perfect nature. Therefore, doesn't bring any unbalance, or doesn't foster unbalance in the world system. Look at this from this angle, and with your okay.
Yeah, great question.
So, what should I do again? So, after all of these, can you, Ashoka ji, please tell us? So, what are you talking about? First of all, life is action. Life is action. No action, no life. No action, no heart beating. We may not move hands and feet, but our body is an actual continuous action, right? It's continuous transformation. We do In every second, we are different from the prior second. Cells dying, changing, new cells, old cells. Okay? So life is action, and there is a tendency when we read that yoga of devotion, you know, be dispassionate, there may be a tendency to say, right, I shouldn't act. It would be much safer not to act, as you were saying. Say, why should I act? We may have that image, you know, of a yogi as a passive subject or something that actually doesn't get involved. That is not the idea. The idea is that action is the very yoga, and we should learn how to act in the right way. What is the righteous action? There is a huge component of learning there, a systematic process of learning about the science, the knowledge of the action and what impact has got on a future life. I will introduce here karma as with a double meaning. Karma is action, okay? The word karma means action, but at the same time, karma, the principle of karma is the principle of action and reaction, okay? Karma, in every karma, has got an effect on what, on our very next second, very next me. There are different kinds of karma, and I will talk to you here about one in particular, which is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma are the karmas that are stored in our, imagine as having a bag or a backpack, coming from our past lives, way, way, way back, that we wouldn't be aware of. All those karmas are still potentially able to manifest in any moment of our life, in our future lives. Okay? These are all the stored consequences of our past actions. Okay? Imagine like this. We perform an action, and there is almost like we carve, we leave a mark, which is a seed for a consequence in time. Does it make sense? That may manifest immediately or may be stored for the manifestation to happen in the future at some point.
So you're saying that every action we don't necessarily have control over the reaction of that action, and you think something that happens.
Of course, of course. Would you imagine, you would have heard about the butterfly effect?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's that sort of thing, but imagine through time, space, lives, and how that tendency may manifest at some point out of the blue, whereby a person can suddenly have a change, a new direction, something coming through really out of the blue, or behaviors, tendencies, all of that may be coming from past karmas.
So if you're acting as consciously as possible in every given moment, do you have more control over the reactions or over your karma?
Wait, I'm confused by this concept of control over.
So if
Yeah.
you're not doing the right action, or choosing the right action.
Yeah, is that what you mean, like control over how you're affecting
Could
the
be. Yeah.
seeds,
So
right?
the effect of what you're doing. No, control is the wrong word.
Can you change it for the better?
So can your conscious action result in a much more positive reaction? Or are you just saying you've got no control over your reaction because it's all your bad?
That's a very valid question. And that takes us to what Karma Yoga is. Karma Yoga is the science of performing actions that do not generate seeds for future events, for future karmas. What does it mean? Does it mean that I don't have a life afterwards? No. What it means is that those actions do not affect us negatively. They stop a cycle. You can see the guy over there. Let's say at some stage, he stops the cycle so that it doesn't get back to him. And we do have another concept in yoga, which is samsara. Samsara, it's a cycle. Samsara is like a wheel of samsara, turning endlessly. And you may experience in life those cycles when you get over and over again on the same point. At the same point, you may have the perception, I've been in this sort of situation before. Again. What should I do again? So that is a karma that hasn't been resolved. It's coming back over and over again, right? And must be, it's like a knot that has to be. Correct. So we ask help to the Guru, to the Shastras, the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, yamas and niyamas. There is a wealth of science about the yoga of action. Let's get to some simple or some basic points about that. Okay.
So that works with negative and positive. So if you may want to plant the seeds of something positive for the future, but essentially you want to avoid planting negative.
What is positive and what is negative?
Yeah. So positive actions are things that you may feel you want to come back around, maybe traits, personality traits, I don't know, kindness, things like that you would want to continue on that cycle, or is it only purely things that you don't want to continue on that cycle that you're...
I would like to go back to the priorities. So, of course, kindness, so what the energy we give and the energy comes back. There is a sort of the action-reaction, you know? There's odd situations where you invest kindness and you receive actually anger. You may find situations where actually you're kind with somebody and for any reason, envy, jealousy, or you may receive a totally different outcome. Did that ever happen to you? Some situation like that? And again, we go back to dialogue 16. The divine nature and the asura nature, which is the evil. I asked you why the good and bad, because ultimately we would like to transcend that concept a bit. If we are back to the bhakta or to that yogi, unaffected, doesn't judge. Of course, there is a good energy flowing around. We can talk about good karmas when there is a favorable conditions. What we call good karmas is favorable conditions. Meeting somebody like a master we can tell that is a good karmas. In your prarabdha karma or something you've done in your past lives took you to something that is positively better for you. Use that word, positively better. It's not just the kindness, like a little bit of sugar that makes my day a bit sweeter. But what is positively better for me, that makes me a better person, and collectively, humanity, a better humanity, a higher humanity. Not necessarily better, just only better. but less avidya, more vidya, more awareness, mindfulness.
That's why so often those things, like if it's happening in one lifetime, right? So often it's a serious illness or a near-death experience, or like these things that on the surface seem horrible and injury, whatever it is, and people are like, okay, suddenly understood what was important. So like those are examples of things.
What better opportunity for the warrior? Situation like that, unaffected, fighting the best battle I can. And there is another point in the Bhagavad Gita, right at the beginning. Arjuna is about to fight the battle. He's say, I'm gonna kill friends, cousins, parents, fathers, uncles. I'd rather die myself rather than doing all of this, or I'd rather give up the fight. Krishna almost slaps it with words. Again, shall I fight or shouldn't I? Nobody actually dies. I think it's very powerful to read that passage. If you want to at the beginning, in the second dialogue, it says, none of you or the other party will actually die. We go life after life through our fights in a righteous action, karma yoga, accumulating jnana, knowledge, dispersing avidya, which is ignorance, getting higher and evolving from one stage of life, which animals, we reincarnate into different stages. And ultimately, dialogue 6 says something which is beautiful, which is, if you have been into yoga in your previous lives, without fail, you will get back to yoga. Dialogue 6, Dhyaya 6, and it says, you will reincarnate. You are now into a yoga teacher training course. You are into a path. You are lucky because of your good karma. You have an opportunity to take back yoga in your life like you've done in your previous lives. Are we talking about the yoga $10 in a gym? Or are we talking about something, I want to breathe fresh air. I want to change really deeply. Something, a new start. Re-embracing something that has always been in you. But avidya, separated. Conditionment, parents. We are born in Western countries. Some lucky ones, just a few, are lucky to be born in a yogi family, and they choose their path. But it's beautiful to see how these opportunities present themselves. We were talking about good karmas. We do have the opportunity to create that in our life. We want to embrace it or not, it's up to us.
The second part of what you said, like, I'm completely on board with that. But the first part, that's like nobody ever dies, or that type of argument is so often used in the context of like genocide or whatever it is. Like, sorry, you have bad karma, like we're going to clear you out. You're going to be reincarnated better. Like, this is for your own good kind of thing. And that's where I really get stuck.
Right. So genocide.
Religions across the ages. I mean, like the caste system in India. Like, sorry, you're like that because you were born. That's your karma. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. This is how the world has worked. And so it's just like, I guess my hesitance, like you were saying, Catholicism, blind faith. Like, there's blind faith in every religion, including, I mean, at least in what we're studying, there is this sense that you should try it out yourself and see. But arguments like this can be used to perpetuate.
Sectarian as well.
Yeah, but I mean, so this is always where I get stuck. So I don't know. I'd love to.
So the karma stands on all sides, right? There is no doubt that operating on a scale that we're talking about genocide has got an impact, a huge karma. I wouldn't say it, but it's huge impact on many lives, not justified possibly, without any reason, and
Not justified at all.
Right, but
those
often,
are-
if you like, let's just say you believe in the principle of karma, you might say, I'm doing these people a favor by freeing them from their current lifetime so that they can be
So,
better off next time.
and there we go to another point, which is dharma, or another concept, which is dharma. Karma is the action. Dharma is the natural order. Okay? Allow me a short digression and then I get back to this point.
I
Imagine.
expect this to get resolved today or even.
No, that's great. Actually, that's great. We are talking really about the very center of this method. It's so dharma.
What did you say it was called again? The righteous.
Dharma is the natural divine order. Okay, universal order. What does it mean? I'll make an example. Very simple. A lion is born a lion. A gazelle is born as a gazelle. And what makes a lion behave as a lion in the very moment he's born and taking the right place in the overall mandala is dharma. Animals, they act usually by instinct in their dharma. And all the rest, actually. Everything is quite balanced in nature. We do, as humans, have, because of that ability to have a higher understanding, that comes with a lot of possibility and at the same time, a lot of confusion about our dharma. There is a lot in what we do in yoga about understanding what is dharma and what is not dharma in our lives, which means what is the right action and what is not. In any moment, what is good, correct, convenient, are three adjectives that would describe what is in action in dharma. Something that is good, a simple rule that says good, correct.
Good for you or good for
overall, because dharma, the principle of dharma, being universal, is for the positively better of the wider system. You are in dharma, it's better for you, is a win-win. Dharma is a win-win. And if you are in dharma, you are at the same time not generating seeds for future karmas. If you are in dharma, the righteous action is the action. A yogi in dharma is a person who starts burning past karmas and starts getting a positive balance, cleaning up the bag. Okay, without generating new ones. When we get, I want to now get to the point that is a huge impact. It's not a win-win, right? It's a big imbalance and the universe hits back. It's a normal action and reaction. And that is what Kali Yuga, we are in, is all about. It's a time of big movements, up and down, big oscillations, and all of that. We are navigating through to our best. As you see, when we say, we look around ourselves at things that really don't make sense. You say, how can it be possible?
like genocide, as Elizabeth said. So how who does that affect kind of wise? You know, that's why you got Hitler, for example, or
Yes.
many, right? How does that play out in karma? His soul gets affected in the lifetime.
Sure. Sure, it's not enough. I mean, it doesn't compensate. If you look from because we have a lot of conception, the concept of prize and punishment, right? So we do a lot, say you did wrong, you go to jail. And we have a moral, I wouldn't say advantage, but a moral pleasure. Right? So if we say it's fair, you did wrong, you pay for it. Basically, that's the concept. We should move one level up from that, and we should look at the bigger picture. Okay, it's not about prize, the prize and the punishment. So you did good, you did bad. Or we're talking good karma, bad karma. We should look it on another level, which is righteous action, karmas generated in the bigger scale. We will have ultimately to go through that, all those karmas. We will need to go through those collectively, because there are different karmas. It's interesting. Karma and dharma are not only an individual level. There is a karma as a group. It's a family karma, family dharma, countries, cities, groups of people getting in connection. They establish a link and they act together, generating collective karmas and collective dharmas to be followed or not. Okay, so it gets wider. If we, of course, we are centered in who we are, what we are, and we look at, at our personal path. But if we look at a higher level, family, even race, sort of the human being as such has got a karma and a dharma. And you can tell where we are. Are we in dharma or are we in adharma? Are we dominated by evil people with evil nature or people with a divine nature? People who can navigate unaffected and embrace non-violence, or people who actually have past sufferings and still perpetuate a samsara of do over and over again, those sorts of. What is our place into all of that? We start in the atom and we propagate the behavior, propagate the understanding, the knowledge. That is why ultimately in the dialogue, in the Dhyana 18, at the end of everything says, you have learned all of this divine yoga of nectar of immortality, pass it on. It is a cycle whereby even in yoga, in the very cycle of learning in yoga is about hearing, putting in practice, integrating into our life. When it is absorbed, fully integrated in ourselves, we offer it back. And only in that moment, we are closing the cycle of learning. Until that point, it is not learned, it's not closed. Okay? And it is a process. It is a process of, ideally, is good in small scale and in larger scale. You are today, because of your good karmas and your prarabdha karmas, you are hearing the words of my guru, not my words. You are hearing words that I have learned, that have been offered to me kindly, with compassion by my guru. And I am doing my dharma, taking my dharma as a person who has received knowledge, to be a channel for it. Because I thank him for what he did in a compassionate way, and I respect it so that I offer it again. This is my dharma. I wouldn't be doing my dharma if I had stopped the chain or stopped that knowledge with me, selfishly. Right? So, questions? So, in the first place, would you say that that is a positive thing? It's new opportunities presented to us, to you?
Well, I don't know. I just, for example, getting away from the social conditioning, and then I feel really courageous, but also scared. And then I'll be offered this whole thing they secure into my job or work, and it's like, oh, that seems easy, but I don't want to go back there.
Sure.
But I just wonder why it keeps
Sure.
coming up.
It's karmas, the karma, but you have the option. You have the option, and if you understand, and you have a good understanding of karma and dharma, you would see where it leads to. Sometimes we just have an opportunity to make a statement. If you consider the opportunity that comes to you, if you consider it, it's because in yourself you still have a bit of attachment to it. It's appealing to you in some way, and you feel weak. It's your weakness because you have made a change. It's not permanent, it's not strong yet, it's not, you haven't fixed your mind on it and you haven't crystallized your ideal to a point that you're strong, Buddha-style, sit on like a stone statue. You are still pulled, and you're able to, the good thing is that you're able to read it. You are in a situation where you have enough presence to put yourself out a bit and say, look what's coming. It's pulling me in again. Right? And that is a great, it's a great thing because you are able to perform an analysis, to analyze it, to do vichara, to do an analysis, taking yourself a bit out and observing what's going on. And then you observe your link and attachment to it. Is it because of, what are we after? Fame, money, relationships, better condition? It's not bad. It's not bad. But how does that work in the bigger game? Is that taking me away from my dharma? Dharma as a woman, as a man, a friend, a yogi. It depends where you are standing in your dharma. If you have a yogic dharma and those things take you away from your being you, that's a compromise. It generates seeds and consequences. It would make your path a bit harder. You will need to fight more and more, possibly to operate a change. You see? Again, where do we put our center? What are our priorities? Where do we recognize that is really our aim? Advancing, progress, or evolution? Progress or evolution? Totally different game. Just the sweetener today, or are we looking for the big game, big change, something completely different? So, did I answer? We are, is it until 4, the class?
Yeah. Yes.
4, right?
You continue.
We can have more classes if you want. As the Vedic Foundation, funded by Guru here in New Zealand, we have activities upcoming. So we do have a small yoga studio at the moment at our place. We do have a room dedicated to yoga. We do perform fire ceremonies. I guess you've done Havan before.
Yeah.
So we do Havan every week. We do have our daily practice, and more will come. So hopefully we will be blessed by Guruji visiting us soon. So he's planning to visit us here in New Zealand, and we would like know if it's possible to gather people who are interested in hearing directly from the master. That would be really great, you know, if of course if we create a movement big enough, you know, so that people can have access to that knowledge, makes of course the master more interested in giving more. You know, if there is interest, interest, then there is also will, you know, and intention to give more.
How do we give our interest? You can tell them what.
I will. What we do have a list of putting together a list of people interested in knowing more about upcoming activities, participating in what we do, if you want. But definitely, if you want to get involved, we can also circulate the teachings that we receive from the foundation worldwide. We post it on New Zealand, on a New Zealand forum, either on WhatsApp or Facebook. So we are creating this movement that makes us actually, keeps us in contact with the master, even if it's overseas at the moment. And as soon as we know when he's coming, we'll organize workshops and talks, personal opportunity to have initiation. Do you know about Diksha, initiation into yoga, Dharma?
Not really. I think Jared talked about it very little. Yeah.
Yes. So there is the opportunity to receive initiation to yogic Dharma. The first step is to, as an initiation, to receive a mala and a name. So Nama Diksha is when you would be given a Vedic name, which is the ideal we meditate on. So Banavi has got Banavi, her name is Banavi Nirvana, and is her ideal in this stage. Name which may change in time in different stages. My name is Ashoka Tilakasuta, so I do have my ideal that comes with my name as well. And that helps creating that perception of ourselves towards a new personality in yoga. And mala is what we use, is basically, is considered, is told to be the only belonging of a yogi, is what we use to do mantra japa. Mantra, repetition of mantras. You are given directly from the master, you're giving a mantra that is for you. So you are initiated to that mantra, and you are allowed, you're told how actually you should pronounce and repeat it. Is part of your practice. Sadhana comes together with meditation, and there are several initiations after that. But that's the initial part, and usually when a guru comes, there is an opportunity for initiations. So I would say if you want to consider that, is another thing, and can only be given by a master who's a monk master. So if you're interested, it's another opportunity you may consider. Say again? Ashoka has got a double meaning. He was an emperor, was a righteous emperor. So had my ideal is the one of the just and right ruler in a way. and also is a tree, sacred tree, where Buddha achieved enlightenment. So it's got both an action side to it and a spiritual side to it, which is quite strong. And I do live it in my life quite a lot, because I have a life living in working in corporates, and I do have my yogic side of life as well. And my effort is to combine them and integrate them. So bringing my yoga and spiritual component into my daily life. Also as a father in my family, and giving opportunities that they can take or not. It's up to them. It is so Ashoka is a first point is an emperor. It is a ruler. It is also a tree or an item which is for enlightenment. And Tilakasuta means son of Tilak. Tilak is guru of our guru, Swami Tilak, and this is Tilak as well. Tilak is the mark we have. And this is a symbol of service. And because the guru of our guru had a strong connection to Hanuman as a divinity and a devotee. And I do embody the value that Swami Tilak fostered. So he's been walking barefoot around the world, spreading Dharma, and fully committed to teaching. And shall I move on? We have 5 minutes. I think we spoke about karma, spoke about learning the righteous action, we spoke about karma and dharma. The concept of good, correct, and convenient, as you know, as a simple rule to identify what is an action in dharma and what not. So if something is good, correct means what are the implications, right? And convenient, that at the same time, all of that you can place at any point where you have visibility of. It can be week, year, life, many lives. So the more you have visibility of, the better. Power of discrimination. So discrimination is key in all of this. So having that is discrimination. You have the opportunity to apply discrimination. If you were blind to it, to what's happening to you, you wouldn't be able to discriminate. But you do have the opportunity to discriminate, right? That's great. I would like to spend a few words more about Dharma. There is so in the third dialogue, 35, it is said that it's far better to follow one's own Dharma imperfectly, okay, rather than following perfectly someone else's. In fact, it is preferable to die trying to fulfill one's own Dharma rather than follow somebody else's path. So why is that? And there is a bottom line there that virtuous is the one who accepts his Dharma. Sometimes we are faced with tests or things, that we face situations that we really don't want to get into, but it's our past karmas, right? It is there for us to fight our battle. Avoiding it and getting into somebody else's path, or possibly, deviating from our Dharma, I wouldn't say that is necessarily, maybe correct, but not necessarily good and convenient in the long term. Karma may present again, possibly with stronger stronger consequences, or it's very dangerous, to do that. And ideally, if we recognize that it is our dharma or our karma, we have to go through it, we want it or not. That is where we fight. Of course, in dharma. And there is another interesting verse, it's two actually, in the dialogue 12. After Krishna talks about, let's say, the yoga of devotion, I wanted to end with these two verses, two slokas that actually condensate both yoga and devotion and yoga of action. The slokas say, Yetu sarvani karmani magi samnyasya matparaha ananyane vayogena mamtyayanta upasate tesam aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagara bhavami na chirat partha maya veshita chetasam. This means those who dedicate all their actions to me, and actions are karmas, worshipping me and meditating on me with exclusive devotions. So the ideal, the divine ideal, we cherish and we make it our center, pursuing that divine ideal, regarding me as the supreme goal. You have strong, as a mumukshutvam, you have strong motivation and craving for that goal. I swiftly deliver them, so free them from the ocean of birth and death, which means beyond the physical body and reincarnation. For their consciousness is united with me, which means you achieve finally that goal of understanding and divine, you have freed and embodied your divine nature. So in these two slokas, I put there the yoga promise because it's the concept is part of what we long for. It's an experience. It's the promise of a fulfilling life. Ultimately, it is the experience of millions of people through ages going through a path. They discovered something. They experienced something, and they passed it on. They codified into books and keep perpetuating it with success, because every time there is somebody who succeeds in the self-realization, it's a confirmation of the validity of the path and the teaching. It is said that in the Vedas that truth is one, and wise people call it with different names. We do regard every teaching that is true to the source of the same very teaching, we can call it yoga. Regardless it is in Central, South America, North America, Asia.
Yeah.
We call it yoga. We would say there may be different names, but ultimately it is yoga. And it is a teaching that has been passed on from master to disciple continuously as a mean to be in dharma, perform a righteous action, not to generate future karmas, to improve the overall karma as human beings, getting out of Kali Yuga eventually, and allowing people actually to overcome their past karmas. And getting closer to their divine idea. major. This 3 minutes past 4. Shall we close the class? We will recite 3 times Om and then Shanti. Exhale. Inhale again. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Bolo Shri Satguru Maharaj Ji ki.
Jai.
Jai Shri Bhagavan Ji ki.
Jai.
Jai Sitaram.
Jai Sitaram.
Jai Sitaram. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Beautiful time. I think it's very interesting.
Beautiful
And I
family.
loved the chat together. And I invite you to leave your contacts if you want to know more about what we're doing and the Vedic Foundation. More to come. We are looking also at doing something related to food, vegetarian food. Sometimes we have evenings. We share a soup after a bit of a chat together, singing, Havan. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I will leave the this over here if you want to write down the name, email and contact, name, email and phone.